so much for clicking on this video. You are amazing. The purpose of this channel is to educate, inspire, entertain, and hopefully make a contribution to your creativity. Welcome to Art Party Now. I'm John McLane, the artist, and today we're going to draw a character that wasn't around when I was a kid, but somehow he's managed to skyrocket down the Hollywood Walk of Fame and into the top 5 most beloved cartoon characters of all time. Sponge who's always smiling, at least when Squidward's not giving him the business. That's right, I'm talking about SpongeBob. So let's start the party. All right, so as you can see, I've got SpongeBob all sketched out on 18 by 24 inch paper and green pencils. As always, I've got my supersized Sharpie for the outlines, fine point Sharpie for the details. I've got my blotter paper underneath. But today, we're gonna try and do things a little differently. So I'm gonna draw some of these lines with colors because since SpongeBob is mostly yellow and black is a little bit of a harsh combination. So stick around and let's see if this works. So we're gonna start with a brown Sharpie to outline SpongeBob's face and draw a wavy rectangle that gets a little smaller at the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you get the idea. Then we're gonna draw the side of SpongeBob's face with another wavy rectangle that gets smaller on the right side and leave a little space at the bottom for his arm. After that, we're gonna use the supersized black Sharpie to draw SpongeBob's face, starting with the nose, which is kind of like a banana shape. 2 big circles on top of his nose for the eyes, and leave an empty space in the bottom of his right eye where we'll draw the cheek a little later. Draw 3 thick eyelashes on top of each eye that radiate from the center of the circle like the hands on a clock. Then we draw 2 circles for the irises right in the center of his eye. And then we use the fine point Sharpie to draw a circle for the pupil and 2 tiny circles on the edge of the pupil for the highlights. Then we're gonna switch back to the supersized Sharpie to draw SpongeBob's top lip with a big curving line from the nose to that empty space in the eye and cap it with a small line for the corner of his mouth. Then we add 2 square teeth right below the center of the top lip. Then we draw the bottom side of SpongeBob's smile with a curving line from the corner of the mouth to the center of the left tooth and finish the smile with 2 curving lines for the tongue. Then we're going to use a red Sharpie to draw a partial circle around the corner of SpongeBob's mouth for the cheek with 3 red dots on it and 1 red line under the mouth to define the bottom lip. Now that we have SpongeBob's face mapped out, we're going to switch back to the supersized Sharpie for his body and start with a little bell shape for the shirt sleeve to fill the gap in the side of his head. Then we draw 2 short lines straight down from the edges of the face and connect them with a horizontal line. Then we'll draw SpongeBob's arm, his hand with a thumb and 3 fingers, and then we can finish the SquarePants with 2 lines behind the arm. Then we're gonna do 2 little triangle shapes for SpongeBob's shirt collar and add his tie right in between. Then we do a long straight line behind the tie, parallel to the bottom of the pants, on the front and on the side, and add a few horizontal rectangles to indicate SpongeBob's belt. Then we're gonna draw another partial bell shape for the shirt sleeve on the left corner of SpongeBob's face, and his other hand behind the left corner of his pants. Then we're gonna finish the pants with a couple partial cylinder shapes on the bottom, and then we're gonna draw 2 skinny legs from the center of the pants and 2 lines in the middle of the legs for the top of SpongeBob's socks. Then we're gonna draw what I'm calling a double bubble shape for SpongeBob's shoes, with a circle on the toe for the highlight and the same exact shape for the other shoe. Then we're gonna finish off SpongeBob's legs with a red and blue Sharpie line near the top edge of the socks, and make sure that we have that highlight on both shoes. And finally, for the finishing touch to our SpongeBob outline, we're gonna go back and use the brown Sharpie to add a few different sized circles to the front and side of SpongeBob's face. And that's it. All right, there we have it. So I'm gonna go back and darken in some of these lines, and then the only thing left to do is color this in. So stick around, because this is where the fun begins. As you watch me darken this in, keep in mind that I'm not just darkening every single line. I'm making the bottom edges of the character thicker to create the illusion of shadows, while leaving the fine point Sharpie lines fine, because the contrast between thick and thin lines is what gives the drawing depth and brings the character to life. All right, so there's our finished outline of SpongeBob. So if you've been drawing along with me, right now is the perfect time to smooth out your lines, make everything just how you want it, because then the only thing left to do is color this in. So let's keep the party going. In this phase of coloring, I'm filling in the darkest darks first and adding a little more weight to the facial features using my supersized black Sharpie. I'm completing the irises on SpongeBob's eyes with a nice bright blue to anchor his expression. And lastly, I'm just coloring in the inside edges of a few of the main features to test my primary color palette while I allow the supersized Sharpie lines to fully dry. All right, so that's about all I'm gonna color in today on SpongeBob, because as always, I'm gonna see if my 3-year-old daughter May wants to help me finish coloring this in and finish the party with a bang. So make sure you stick around, because coming up next is where the magic really happens. All right, so now that May has added her 2 cents to this drawing, let's finish coloring SpongeBob in. So this is called a color test sheet. Since I have so many brand new colors of markers, what I wanted to do is to test out all the different yellows, because I also want to put some shadows into SpongeBob. So I tested out the dark yellows, the light yellows, dark greens, dark browns, light browns, red, blue, pink, and all the different colors. So now that I've got it figured out exactly which colors I'm gonna use, let's keep this party going. In the next phase of coloring, I'm using 2 different shades of brown to color SpongeBob's pants to continue the illusion of shadow that began with thickening my outlines. I'm using a pale blue to create the shadow on the right side of SpongeBob's shirt, a vivid red to complete SpongeBob's tie, and then I'm returning to the black Sharpie to color SpongeBob's belt in last, which ensures that those black lines don't bleed into my other pigments, so my color palette remains brilliant and bright. Okay, so I'm extremely happy with the colors that I selected for the clothes. So now let's color in the body and bring SpongeBob to life. In this phase of coloring, I'm using a pale green to color the pores on the front of SpongeBob's face and a raw umber for the pores on the side of his face. I'm using a deep yellow on his legs, a pastel yellow for his hands, and then I'm just using a standard yellow Sharpie around all the edges of the main facial features. Now that I have my light colors masking the edges of my darker outlines, it's time to complete our character by switching back to the pastel yellow to color the entire front side of SpongeBob's face. I'm going to use the same deep yellow I used on the legs to create the illusion of shadow on the side of SpongeBob's face, a vintage red wine for inside SpongeBob's mouth, vivid pink for the tongue, and then back to my supersized Sharpie for the eyelashes. All right, so I'm absolutely thrilled about how these new markers turned out with SpongeBob here. So I just gotta do one more little finishing touch. So make sure you stay tuned for the final reveal, and make sure to check out all your other favorite cartoons in our cartoon library. Thank you so much for joining us at the art party today. If you had fun or learned anything, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Drop us a comment if you have any requests for future episodes, and click this link to keep the party going.